All right, Garrett and Kyle, owner and co-owner of Carbon Pickleball. Welcome to the QCast. It's a pleasure to have you both on. I'm going to give a brief bio for you guys in case people don't know. So before pre-COVID, Garrett was actually a wine sommelier, which is fancy French word for a wine expert who kind of works in the fine dining space and then helps people pair wine and food. I found that part interesting about your background. I didn't know that. So thank you, Kyle, for the information. And then you took up pickleball like I did during COVID and started making paddles and way back in 2021. And pickleball years, that's a long time, right?
Yeah.
And the intent never was to start selling the paddles, but then people started noticing on the courts and asked how to buy them. Enter Kyle into the equation. You two were childhood friends. Kyle brought an engineering background and business experience, and then together you launched Carbon. Was that the same year in 2021?
Yeah, right at the end, right there, around August 2021. Yeah.
Well, it blew up pretty quickly after that because I remember seeing Carbon paddles heavily in 2022. Yeah. So welcome to the show, guys. I'm glad you guys were able to make it.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So first and foremost, do we have a release date for the new Carbon TruFoam Genesis paddles?
We do. January 30th, 2025.
Good to hear. It's been a long time coming for good reasons. So let's just kind of take a broader picture here. And can you address what exactly is TruFoam and kind of how is it different than other things on the market right now?
Yeah. So I guess TruFoam, in the simplest form, is our new platform on which we will be launching paddles. The first one being Genesis. It's a 100% foam core proprietary blend of high density foam, and our mission was to mostly fix core crush. That was what we were, trying to get at it here is like, Gen 2 paddles, Gen 3 paddles, they all have the propensity to core crush at some point in their lifespan of the paddle. We wanted to create something that didn't do that. So that was, and also plays really good and has amazing dwell and all that stuff. So that was the idea for TruFoam.
And you brought with you a sample, right, of the core. Can we take a look at that?
Yeah, I have it here. So this is the Genesis core design. These are injection molded holes. You can hear super high density. Really doesn't give too much. And it's designed really to flex a little bit in the center, give a lot of dwell time, and have really long lifespan, essentially.
You said it's high density foam, so it's not EVA or the other types of foams that are currently being used in paddles, right?
Correct. Yeah. So it's not EVA. It's not
PMI is another one that's
PMI.
Out there, I think. Yeah, different attributes. It's our kind of proprietary blend that we've been able to figure out and design. And I think also seeing the core, it's obviously way different than honeycomb, but it's also far different than kind of the foam applications that you see in Gen 3 paddles. There's no, honeycomb around it or in it, and there's no ribs or stringers, any stabilizers. It's a 100% foam without anything else. And I think that simplicity is partially what gives it the durability that Garrett already referenced. There's not a lot of moving pieces that have a tendency to break apart in, say, like Gen 3 paddles, for example.
Yeah, that's a good point. So there's no sort of fusion or interface between polypropylene foam. It's just one piece with some cavities in it, but is there any type of edge perimeter weighting system built into this, or is it just straight foam and then edge guard?
Yeah, right now it's straight foam and edge guard.
And interesting design in the recesses, the voids in the paddle. It looks kind of like a bit of a spider web. And I assume that is an intentional design for various reasons, and you can change the voids to change performance, right?
Yeah. So the core on this on its own, I have the other one. Sorry. So like this is a Model 2 shape without any voids molded into it. So you can just see it's On its own, it's actually heavier than polypropylene just because of how dense it is. We do, part of it is for performance, like all this outside, the way that it's allowing the core to flex, that's performance. The inside, a lot of that is actually weight reduction, and because it is on the heavier side on its own. There's a lot of technology going into that too. But Kyle, I don't know if you want to add anything there too.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think that design was a long time coming. I think we kind of alluded to it or joked about how long this paddle has been in production or in prototype phase. It's been 18 months. I'm sitting, 5 feet away from a closet full of 300 plus prototypes that Garrett and our engineer have produced over the last year and a half. So that core design, it looks fairly simple just from the outside looking in, but it took a long time and a lot of testing. Garrett spent hours and hours and hours play testing different designs and working with our engineer to come up with the one that had the best combo of kind of all the things he mentioned: weight, performance, durability, all of that.
And you all, during the development phase, you all do have a factory in California, a local factory where all of this was kind of developed. Can you speak a bit about that and kind of the interplay between that and the mass production in China?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, we have this workshop in Southern California. We're based in Southern California. So our engineer, he's able to hand make prototypes same day. And I think that's pretty unique to our R&D process. Garrett can chat with him, come up with some ideas. They'll make it within a day. Garrett can play with it the next day. And then, based on like that third day, he could have a new model again. So we could just rapidly change things. And then once we finalize designs, then we move it to Asia for mass production, like most of the manufacturers are doing, just because that's the best place to produce paddles at this point. But the prototyping being done domestically has been a huge advantage.
Yeah, I don't know of many other paddle companies that have that capability. So, how do these Genesis, these TruFoam paddles play compared to the existing CRBN X-series that are on the market right now?
Yeah, I guess it's kind of hard to verbalize it. It's a lot easier to understand just by feeling it, but because of the way that like the properties are of the core. But I would have to say the biggest difference that you feel is in the flex. The ball. These have been tested for exit velocity and all that stuff. So they do come off slightly hotter than our most powerful X series, which would be like a 14 or a 12 millimeter paddle. It feels like a little slightly more muted, but actually is coming off faster. So it's really hard to explain until you actually play it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've been playing with these for a while. I have the prototypes, actually production series, but you all gave them to me a while back. So I've been experimenting with them. And yeah, I agree that they have a fairly unique feel. They don't feel like the other Gen 3 paddles that are foam enhanced by combining polypropylene and foam or full EVA foam. A little stiffer than that, but softer than, like a Gen 2 polypropylene paddle, softer than in your existing CRBN X line. Good sweet spot. They have the raw carbon fiber surface, so really good spin as well. I think these got better spin for me than your original ones. I don't know if you changed the peel ply on this or what, but yeah. And then,
that's probably from...
Go ahead.
That's probably because of the core, the dwell that you're getting from the core. Yeah.
And I feel a little bit more dwell time for sure. And then more power for sure than your existing CRBN line. What was your intent with the firepower of these paddles? Did you want it to be absolute top tier or come in? Where would you put it in the current paddle market?
Yeah. I think our goal was controlled power. There are some paddles right now that are, I think a little bit on the higher end and overpowered maybe. And some of those are probably going to be sunsetted at the end of, the year here. We didn't feel like we wanted to go towards that extreme. We feel like the Genesis, it helps players of all levels improve their game across the board instead of just like one area. I think it's a really well-balanced paddle. I don't know, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. It's, it improves all attributes, which I think makes, most people a better player. It's not as flashy maybe as some of the overpowered paddles out there. But like Garrett said, that I don't think some of those paddles make people better players universally. And also we wanted to future-proof this technology and make sure that it wasn't going to get sunsetted in the near future. We wanted people to buy this with confidence and know that, they can get used to it and play with it and be excited to play with it ongoing, I guess.
Right. And you have currently 3 shapes in this series. And I'll speak to my impression of the firepower while we're on that topic. I would put it about Paddletech Bantam series level power. So definitely a power paddle, but not, up there close to the Gearbox Pro Power and the mod, for example, which were just sunset based on, not passing the new PBCoR standard. So we have, for shapes, we have the traditional Carbon 1, which is the elongated paddle. We've got the Carbon 2, which is the shorter, wider standard shape paddle, and the Carbon 3, which is elongated but longer face, shorter handle. Do you all have plans for a 4th shape that I've been hearing rumors about?
Yeah, we're working on a Model 4 right now that will be lengthwise kind of in between the Model 2 and the Model 1. More of that kind of aero profile, rounded nose, just trying to optimize, for swing weight, MOI, all that, techie stuff.
And just to clarify, we're working on that, but we don't have a specific ETA. Like we're launching end of January with the 3 shapes that you just showed, John.
So the 4 will be a hybrid shape, a bit more of a curved top, somewhere between the 16.5 and 16.0 length that you currently have, and a little bit in between width of those 2 models too. I think that's going to be a really popular choice for people looking to get the new series. Can you all speak to kind of what the break-in looks like on these, if there is a break-in period, and the durability of this, and how have you tested this new TruFoam in that regard?
Yeah, so I guess like I mentioned earlier, that we were going at this project trying to solve for core crush. And so, because of that, these paddles last far longer than most Gen 2, Gen 3 paddles on the market right now. With that being said, I haven't experienced any break-in period, and none of our players have, our athletes that have been testing it. We have the ADC pickle press that the UPA uses. I've been testing deflection on that on new paddles based off of paddles that I've used for 6 months plus, getting same readings, identical readings from a brand new paddle to a used paddle. So there really hasn't been any break-in on these.
Yeah, and solving for that break-in period was a huge focus of ours, because truthfully, I see on, these various Facebook groups, in the YouTube comments, on Reddit, all over the place, all these consumers or players trying to compare paddles and decide, oh, mine isn't broken in enough. Maybe I need to play longer to make it play the same as yours. And there's confusion on whether the paddle is how it should be, or if it's actually broken and, core crushed or delaminated. And that confusion and that inconsistency, that's something that we're trying to solve for, because it doesn't seem like a long-term, good experience for the consumer. So I think, we're hopefully setting the bar as, break-in is a design flaw, not a feature of a product. And then hopefully all the manufacturers will follow and figure out ways to, kind of reduce that or remove that from paddle designs.
Yeah, it's been a hot topic in terms of the break-in and whether or not it's just a path to breakage, So I think that'll be a welcome addition to the market. And I put in several hours of playtime with the 3 existing paddles that I have, and I have not noticed much in terms of, if any, in terms of break-in. And not to say that all break-in is bad. Like, paddles can loosen up a bit as long as the power doesn't get crazy out of control. But I also understand, it's not fun to buy a paddle and love it out of the box, and then you have a different paddle 4 weeks later, right, that plays completely differently. So it's good to know you all are trying to resolve that issue and engineering around that issue. And it sounds like, it sounds very feasible with the technology you're using, right? It's one piece of foam in the core that's not adhered to anything else, so you don't have issues with epoxy breaking down between the foam and the polypropylene, or carbon fiber, coming delaminated and disbonded. I mean, I know there's carbon fiber on the facing materials, but a lot of people are also using carbon fiber in the cores as well. So it's a keep it simple, right? And things tend to be more durable.
And I think, you hit the nail on the head there. I think how you described a lot of those Gen 3 paddles, like we're considering this in a category of its own. We consider it Gen 4, just to use the kind of the terminology that is already out there. Like Gen 3 is foam enhanced paddles that usually have ribs or honeycomb or fill in the blank stabilizer in there. This as like its own Gen 4 type paddle, it only has foam, and the simplicity is what makes it durable and also gives it that unique playability, I guess, or style. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's about all the questions I have. Do you all have anything in the works for 2025 besides obviously this big release coming at the end of January?
Our main focus is launching the Genesis line, as soon as possible. It seems like it's taken a long time, so we want to make sure that gets off the ground. But as for the rest of 2025, we hope that it doesn't take us the same amount of time to launch a new version of a TruFoam paddle. So, we would love to have another one coming on the tail end of 2025. That'd be awesome.
Would it be a safe assumption to say that it would still be using a TruFoam, but in different configurations, since you kind of have that baseline already, and you can manipulate the voids and that sort of thing?
Exactly.
We've built the platform, like proven the concept. It's all been approved, and that's what took 18 months to do. And so now it's just I wouldn't call them minor tweaks, but it's not recreating something from the ground up, which is what happened the first time around.
All right. Well, thank you both so much. Do you have any closing thoughts before we end it?
I think the only thing to mention, go.
Sorry, I was going to mention, wanted to make sure that, we did mention these are PBCoR 43 certified. We have been through all of those tests with UPA. I'm going to make sure we're, just all in spec and nothing has to be sunsetted. So that was a big thing that took longer for this paddle as well.
Yeah. And actually, it's probably important to note. So the first batch of TruFoam Genesis paddles will just have the standard USA, pickleball approved logo on that. The second batch will also include the verbiage that basically says PBCoR 43 certified. In any scenario, all of the TruFoam, the 3 models that you showed, they are all certified with USAP for that PBCoR level. But USAP didn't get us the information we needed or logo in advance. So we didn't include it on the first batch, which is a little bit confusing to consumers, but they just need to know that, they're good to go regardless. It just won't physically say it until kind of batch 2.
Thank you for bringing that up because I had forgotten to include that. That was a question I definitely wanted to ask you all about PBCoR. And just for clarification, that's PBCoR 0.43 approved. Doesn't mean your paddle's tested exactly at the limit of 0.43. It's just a term used by USAP to say, hey, they came in at or below 0.43. So we're assuming somewhere below that. So I understand you probably wouldn't want to give the exact number because there are, as we discussed earlier, there are differences between USAP and UPAA. So that might get confusing for people. But yeah, that all sounds great. Anything else, guys?
No, we're excited to get these out into the world. And I think, we're excited to get people to try them out because they're so different. And, we're doing our best to get these into as many retailers in person, online, and on our website. People can try them out. We have a 30-day trial. So if they want to, it sounds great here, but they don't know until they try it. So we stand by that 30-day trial and our warranty too.
Yeah. And everybody I've talked to that has warranted a carbon paddle has nothing but good things to say about the customer service. So kudos to you all for that. So lots of moving parts, I understand, with logistics and shipping, but January 30th is the goal. So it's great to have a date and look forward to the launch.
Yeah, same here. Thanks, John.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, Garrett. Thanks, Kyle. Have a good one.
All right.
See ya.